Good morning, Kathy.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful sunny morning in
Yeah.
southern Alberta.
And I heard that you got to go and take in a lot of our southern Alberta charm and beauty yesterday.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it was well, hang on. Today is what are we, Tuesday? June
Mm-hmm.
10th.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I live just outside of Waterton National Park. So we have this old convertible that we pulled out yesterday and headed out to the park, enjoying all of that fabulous beauty, and of course Waterton. And I always hesitate to tell people this. Waterton's very quiet. There's not very many tourists. It's like
And
this little hidden treasure gem in the corner of the province that nobody knows about. And I'm always like, do I want people to know about it? Because it's just fabulous, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so we went to the lake yesterday and put our feet in and just enjoyed that.
that's awesome.
Fantastic. Hmm.
That's awesome. Actually, our province has a whole bunch of little hidden gems like that, right? All over, like right from north to south, east to west, there's little pockets of absolute beauty. I mean, I would think the whole province is beautiful, but there's little pockets where it really lights up and shines. And you're right.
Hmm.
Sometimes we think, well, I don't know if I want anybody to know about this little secret that we have over here.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because then suddenly it gets commercialized and populated, and you kind of
Well, it's so
lose that
funny.
Alberta flair, right?
Exactly. Well, this last week actually we've had because I run a bed and breakfast, and
Mhm.
we've had two couples from the States come through and the on their way to Banff. So they're on these road trips and they're on their way to Banff and they stop at our place because we're just right across the border and it seems like a good place to stop, right? Because we're
Yeah.
another 4 hours to Banff. And both couples had no idea where they actually were, and that Waterton was literally 15 minutes down the road. And so we sent both of them down there, and we're like, you know
Hmm.
what? Banff is great. Banff is magnificent and gorgeous, and you will stand in line for everything. You're doing Johnston Canyon, you're going to be hiking in a line. but here, go to Waterton. You'll have the place
Yeah.
to yourself. And both couples came back and were just like, oh, we had no idea.
Exactly. Well, and the other interesting thing is the G7 meeting is happening in Kananaskis. And
Yes.
so that right now is, pretty much locked up like Fort Knox. So nobody can
Hmm.
get in and out. And obviously, right? I mean, that makes sense for security reasons and all of the rest. But I think is it almost embarrassing that we are the lowest of the G7 nations, and then these countries are coming here to see what we actually have to offer.
I know.
And right, and we're stifling ourselves. It's compliments of, and it's not Alberta doing it. It's compliments of a bunch of morons and idiots in Ottawa. And here all these big players in the G7 are going to be here and see what we have. And they must be going home questioning, like, why, why is Canada doing this to
Yeah,
itself?
yeah. Well, I think if and it's kind of telling that they chose to have this G7 summit in Alberta.
Hmm.
Why not Brampton, Ontario?
Yeah, why not, actually?
Why not? I mean, yeah, we are the lowest, we have the lowest GDP growth or anything in the G7. I don't know,
Hmm.
heck, we might get kicked out of the G7 eventually at the rate we're going.
We're on our way.
And why don't we just show them like really what's going on in Canada? But
Yeah.
pick Kananaskis, which also I was explaining this to a customer yesterday because they wanted to drive up through Kananaskis, but of course on the maps it shows that the roads are all closed, and we are like, oh yeah, right, they have the G7 thing going on. Um, but yeah, why pick a spot that one, and here's another thing that maybe we don't want to share with people. Kananaskis rivals Banff easily,
Oh,
easily
huge.
rivals Banff. And
Yes.
again, does not get anywhere near the traffic because it's a provincial area. It's not a national park. that's
That's right.
internationally known like Banff. And so, you know what? We always tell people, sure, go to Banff, go stand in line to take a picture of Lake Louise. But then if you really want to see something, drive through Kananaskis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's interesting that they chose that place to have that summit and not Brampton, Ontario.
I think they should have went to Brampton, then they would have seen everything on perfect display
Yep.
as to what goes on. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyways, so
wow. So
here we are.
we've had some meetings, both you and I. And as per the norm, there seems to be themes that come out of these meetings, which is great
Hmm.
because then that's how we find out what people are thinking. What are they asking? And this is also one of the reasons why we like to have our smaller group meetings, if you will, because then people can ask questions and conversation can evolve out of that. And it's just a little bit more cozy, a little bit more comfy. Um, and at mine, of course, CPP came up again, Canada Pension Plan. What about that? What about that? And these were people who either were collecting or very close to and legitimately worried. And we've covered this before. We've even had a whole email out on this before, which we're going to um,
Yes.
share on here as well, just so you kind of get an idea of what our emails look like when we send those out to people. And if you want to be on that list, let us know. We'll be happy to put you on that email list.
Yeah. You know what? Let me pull it up right now. And so in the video description, we will have our email for the Alberta Women's Independence Network. We'll have our email there that you can email us to get onto the list. But yeah, let me just pull this up. No, I'm hitting the wrong button. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, hmm,
Share screen.
this
There we
might
go.
not be the right one.
Well, we'll
Okay.
find out.
Hang
Nope.
on a second. I'm going to move that over.
If you just go onto the
There we
other
go. Yeah, right
tab.
there. Okay, can you see that, Kathy?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so this is like we send out an email once a week, and I think we sent this one out maybe a month ago. And so just to give people a real quick idea, this one was focused on the Alberta Pension Plan versus the CPP. So we always start off our emails with, our upcoming meetings, where they are and when, that type of thing. And then we go into the topic of the week. So in this one, we shared, I think, 4 different links here. So and we will share these same links in the video description. So if you were not on our email list, but you still would love to see the links that we shared in the email about the APP and the CPP, here they are. They'll be in the video description. So we had a video from Corey Morgan, who's doing all those amazing videos about Alberta independence. So a video from him talking about what would happen to CPP or our CPP if we were to secede from Confederation. And then we had this video from Nadine Wellwood did an interview with Chris Scott through the Alberta Prosperity Project. It's on their YouTube channel. And the interview is about 45 minutes long. And in it, she really goes through what the CPP is and what it isn't. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that. And then also goes into why we should switch to an APP and what the advantages and the benefits would be. So we've got the link to that video. We also have a link to a website that is dedicated solely to an Alberta pension plan and information and learning about that, which I found was like super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had a link to a article that the Fraser Institute did, a study that they did about the CPP, but also touching on equalization and employment insurance contributions from Alberta versus the rest of the country. And these were actually like the video with Nadine Wellwood was the first time that I actually really kind of got into an understanding of the Canada Pension Plan and how it is actually set up. I had a lot of the same misunderstandings that a lot of folks do.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because we don't know how all of this is put together. And even if you go on the Government of Canada website, you're not going to find it there either. They don't want you to know. Even if you go on the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board website, you're not going to find it there either. They
Yeah, it's
don't,
tricky.
it is, it's very tricky, and they don't want you to know that all of this money kind of goes into this black hole, if you will, and what you get out of it is not necessarily indicative of what you put in. It's a formula that they use. So how many years, your first 5 years that you worked, how much did you work, how much did you make? And then they look at the last handful of years that you worked and how much did you make and how many years in the middle did you work? And then they spit this number out the other side, and that's what you get. It has nothing to do with the growth of the fund. It has nothing to do with how much you contributed all the way through. It has nothing to do with anything of that. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where people get really mixed up. Like they think that this is like a mutual fund or something that, oh, I'm putting my money into this. And I mean, because people always spout numbers about the growth, that CPP has had. Oh, well, the fund has had this much growth. Well, one, that's to be debated sometimes. And
Hmm.
two, it's not like a mutual fund where you look at it, you go, oh wow, like it did really well this year, and I'm gonna have more money in my pocket because of that. It's not like
Nope.
that at all.
Mm-mm.
Like you're limited. I think Kathy, you told me the number the other day because it recently changed. What's the maximum? Do you remember what the maximum monthly payout that you can get through Canada
Yeah.
Pension Plan is? Was it
Right,
$1,600 or something like that?
right around that amount. Yeah, right around that amount.
So I don't know about you, but I was thinking the other day and I'm like, I couldn't live on $1,600 a month. That
Nope.
might, if I didn't own my home outright, which a lot of seniors don't necessarily own their home, they're renting. If
Hmm.
I was trying to pay rent and utilities and maybe car insurance or like there's just no way that it's not a livable pension.
It isn't. And when it was first brought on board, it was a Liberal government, if I recall, brought it on board. And the idea was is that that amount would cover a portion of what you were going to need when you retired. That was the precipice behind it. However, that message got lost over the decades, and for some reason, people believe that that is their pension, that somehow whatever they were making on their last day of employment will be exactly what they make on their first day of retirement because they've been putting into this pension. And so then it's a real shock to discover, well, no, that's actually not what this is. It's just more of a top up from whatever you contributed to a work pension or to some RSPs of your own or some other retirement vehicle. The CPP is only meant to supplement that, kind of be the icing on the cake, not the whole enchilada. And the government just wanted everybody, I guess, to believe that they were amazing and we're going to look after you. So, you don't want to touch that CPP because by golly, that's all you're going to have to live on. And they stopped communicating that, no, you guys, this is just, it just supplements. It's not the all end all.
Right, right, exactly.
So that, of course, you could be even more reliant on the government for things like, old age security, if you qualify for that, or on top of that, the other thing too, so even you think of high income earners, and so they will have some sort of a work pension and some other vehicles where they were getting ready for this day, right? For freedom, whatever age that is. And some of them haven't hit freedom anything because they're workaholics, but whatever. But you think of them and they're higher income earners. Well, that CPP, by the way, is also taxable. So it might be that that maxed out amount of 15 or 1600 bucks then knocks you into a higher tax bracket. And then the government gets to collect even more taxes out of you in your retirement than they did the day before. So,
Right? Yeah.
ah,
It's yeah, there just needs to be more understanding, definitely, about what it is and
mm-hmm,
what it isn't. And so I would definitely, I mean, Kathy, like you and I are not we're not experts in this. Absolutely not. I'm just learning about this myself.
Yeah.
But this is why we're going to include the links to those interviews and those articles and stuff so that people can find out for themselves. Because there we see already, and we know it's coming, that there is a lot of fear mongering around this, right?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
oh no, you're not gonna get your CPP. Or if if Alberta secedes from Confederation and now it's a different country, you're not gonna get your CPP. Well, let's address that one right now.
Mhm.
And we can do that in like 2 seconds flat. Every one of us knows somebody who has retired and moved to another country or who spends a significant amount of time in another country. Do they give up their CPP when they do that?
Mm-mm.
No, no,
No.
they don't. Like you still get your CPP. And in fact, I was talking to a friend the other day. She's American, married to a Canadian, and has lived here in Canada for 15, 20 years. She's retired. She receives her pension from the States, even
Yeah.
though she's living in Canada, like it's deposited into her Canadian bank account. There is portability in these pensions, and it's built right in. When you do go into like the different legislation around the CPP, the portability factor is right in there.
Yeah.
And so if Alberta seceded, does not mean you don't get your CPP. It'd be like the equivalent of moving to another country. You'd still get your CPP.
That's right.
So that takes care of that right there. What are some of the other questions, Kathy, that you hear, and concerns that people have about if we were to switch to an Alberta pension plan?
Yeah, the one that I heard this week, because it was a group that's I don't want to, I don't mean this in a nasty way or anything, but they were a little bit more knowledgeable. Like, again, I was talking to folks who see the forest for the trees. They see what needs to happen, but they don't always have all of the information to be able to communicate it out to others, right? And so, one of the things that they said, well, if we get our own APP, we can't even get the number from the federal government as to what's owed to us. You know,
Mm,
we did the province of Alberta did the homework on that with Morneau Chappelle and used the federal government's own numbers, their own formula to figure out how much of that fund belongs to us. And of course, the federal government didn't like that number because it was gigantic and would really put a dent in the CPP as it is. And so there was this fear, well, the federal government just isn't going to cooperate, and that handcuffs us. And I said, well, how does that handcuff us? Well, because if they don't give us that money, what if they only give us whatever we put in, the per capita portion that we put in? Well, then what? And I said, well, that's a good question. Then what? What do you think the answer is to that? And they didn't have one, except that if we only got that per capita portion, it wouldn't be enough to cover our seniors who are now in retirement age and wanting to collect that fund. And I said, well, from what I understand, that per capita portion is $95 billion. That's not chump change. That's not chump
right?
change,
No,
right?
it's not. That's great. That's a
And
great start.
that's a
Considering
good,
our population and the number of retirees that we have actually pulling
yeah.
from the fund, that's actually a very good start.
It's a very healthy start. And then two supplementary arguments to that is the way that the CPP formula is now, whatever all of that extra money is that's in there because of growth, because of amortization over the years, like all of the rest of that, you don't see that on your CPP payment anyways when you get it back. Whenever they say, oh, well, it grew 10% last year, did your payment go up 10%? No, you don't see it. So you're
Right.
only going to get back probably even less than what you put in some instances. So it's a kind of a moot point once you put it that way to people, and that they go, oh, well, yeah, then why don't we just bring this in and take control over it, starting with this seed money of 95 billion, um, and take it from there. And absolutely, not to mention between 2007 and 2022, we overpaid into the CPP almost $245 billion.
Yes, and that the study that I referenced, the Fraser Institute study, that will include the link to it.
Yeah.
Um, it has a really nice chart that kind of shows that. So Alberta and BC are the only provinces that have over contributed to the Canadian pension plan. And what we mean by over contributed is that we had a large enough workforce that
Hmm.
was earning enough money to pay into the CPP, and we had fewer dollars being taken out of the CPP by our retirees. So let's just say that we kept everything 100% status quo, like the amount that the employees pay and the amount that the employers pay and the amount that the retirees are taking out. Even let's say we started with
Hmm.
zero in our fund, we would still easily be able to cover the amount that the retirees are taking out and have $3 to $5 billion a year left over to invest in a fund. Now, I'm not saying that that's what we would do and that's would be the ideal, but it completely negates the argument that, oh, we're not going to have enough to start with. Because if we started with zero, we would still be able to cover our liabilities of what the retirees are entitled to take out of that fund.
Correct. Correct. And this is what the federal government and some in the provincial government around here don't, this is the conversation they don't want us to have because it takes the air out of the balloon entirely. Completely takes the air out of the balloon. There's nothing to be afraid of with
Right.
regards to this. And I think they hope that, well, because the numbers are so big and there's so many zeros that you just use, letters like M for million or B for billion, that people will glaze over. And that's correct. They do, right? The numbers get so big that you just can't wrap your head around them. Um, but the problem is not so big when you dial it right down into its components to wrap our heads around. The fact is, we've got a very young population that contributes a lot of money into this fund that, oh, by the way, the president and CEO gets paid $6 million in compensation a year.
Which is unbelievable. Like, no, that's just nuts. When I think
Right?
about what I pay my financial advisor to do my mutual funds, um, like if I was, yeah. Anyways, whatever. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Well, so think of that. We pay, that's just the one guy. They have hundreds of people on staff managing all of this money in offices around the world, literally in offices around the world. So they're also making a significant amount of money, depending where they are at on the food chain in that company, in that organization. Meanwhile, every Monday morning when I'm volunteering at the food bank, I've got seniors coming for food.
That is so wrong on so many levels. And the problem, Kathy, and this is what brings us back to the need for Alberta independence. The problem is Albertans have absolutely no way of holding those folks accountable in
Mhm.
Ottawa for what is being done with our mandatory contributions. We don't
Yes.
have a choice.
No.
It's basically a tax, is what it is.
Yeah.
You have to pay it, and we have no way of holding them accountable. And it goes back to the philosophical idea that the closer a government is to the people, the more easily and better held accountable they are to those very people. And you know what? Like when the people managing our pension live 3,400 kilometers away,
Hmm.
they don't know
And more.
who we are and more.
No,
They don't know who we are. They don't care.
no,
There's zero accountability. Like we can't say, no, I don't want that guy to earn $6 million a year to manage a fund that isn't even hitting any of the same, numbers as the index funds.
that's correct.
So why is he earning that? He's underperforming compared to, when I look at my private investments, he's way underperforming. And why are we paying him $6 million a year to do that?
Yep.
but there's no way that as Albertans that we have any say over that, which is another huge reason in my mind why we need to bring it home
Yes.
so that we can see where is this money being invested into. Now, I don't know for a fact, I haven't looked into it, but I don't know. Is there CPP being invested in cricket farms that go
Yes.
bankrupt a year later?
Uh-huh.
Or EV battery farms that support an industry that doesn't even exist?
Yep. Yep. You
We
can go on there. You can go on the website and see where all of the money is being invested in. And it's in a lot of those green initiatives that, I mean, the only green that happens is all the money that gets flushed down the toilet on them because all of them to a T are useless. But
interesting.
you can also see that there is a significant investment in oil and gas on there.
But is it oil and gas in Canada?
Nope.
Okay, we're going to have to put the link to that website as well that you've just
Yeah.
referenced in the description, the video description as well.
Yeah. If it
I'd
is,
like to
it's
look at
very
that.
negligible. It's very negligible.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
it's wild. But this is all this stuff, like it takes time, right? To go down these rabbit holes takes time and it's boring and it's lots of numbers and it's big numbers and then sometimes there's economic words in the middle of that that could kind of get twisted around in our heads a little bit. And I get it. Like I'm no economist. I've been on as much a learning curve as anybody else. There's nothing special about me that I bring to the table on this other than this ridiculous desire to get to the bottom of things in order to make things better for all of us. And maybe it's not a ridiculous desire, but sometimes it's overwhelming.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
and it's tough. And then when you realize just how much we've been lied to, just how much we've been taken to the cleaners as Albertans, um, just how much our government, federally and provincially, to some degree, have screwed us over. It's unconscionable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really
100%.
unconscionable. So, all that said, even if we only got out of there what we put in per capita, which is the 95 billion, we'd be just fine.
Yeah. We would be just fine. And Kathy, you often bring something up, when some of our seniors have concerns about, oh, well, what's going to happen? And I like the way you put it, where you're like, we're not going to let you starve.
No.
That's not the Albertan way. The Albertan way is very much that you are looking out for your neighbors. Um, Both you and I spent a lot of our childhoods up north in northern communities where it was a matter of survival that neighbors looked out for each other. You
Exactly.
just did. You never drove past a vehicle that was sitting on the side of the road
No.
without checking to make sure that they were okay. And so yeah, I when I hear that concern, like, well, like I'm gonna be left high and dry. No, you won't.
No. We
No,
won't
you
allow it.
won't. One, the numbers don't bear that out. And two, you're in Alberta. You're in Alberta where we care for our neighbors. We
Mm-hmm.
know our neighbors. We work together. Everything. You will be well looked after. You will be fine.
Exactly. And even if we don't know our neighbors, right? There's there's so many stories that come out of this province of community and humanity coming together in a
Hmm.
time of crisis and a time of need, no matter the crisis, no matter the need. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
like we were just one like very quick story of 100 of them that you and I could both bring up. We used to be on there's a Highway 43 Facebook page because we traveled Highway 43 for work all the time. And on Highway 43 in the wintertime, oh my good gravy.
Mm.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge for those of us that, learned how to drive and all of this, let alone for those who didn't. And there's people who live here who did not get to learn how to drive on these and yet have a license and away they go. And there was one So you would go on this Facebook page, and the truckers and everybody who was going to be on it that day would be giving hourly updates. Right? This is what it is from here to here. This is what it is from there to there. You know what? If you don't have to travel, don't. Like, there was all of this other stuff. There's an accident here, so make sure and go around. Or you know what? Something fell out of the back of my truck. If you're up between here and here, can you please look at it in the ditch? Like, there's all these conversations that took place. And then there was one that just stood out to me. And it was a lady, she got on there and she says, you know what, guys, just a reminder, we're all used to this. We just helped somebody get out of the ditch. The snow just pulled them in. It happens, whatever. They moved over to the shoulder too much in a way. They didn't realize that you don't want to do that. And so she says, the guy was out of the car while mom and the kids were staying in warm, trying to dig them out. And so naturally, within 30 seconds, 5 more vehicles stop to help to make sure everybody is okay and warm. And, all the winter gear starts coming out of the back. And she said, you know what? He didn't know to make sure that the tailpipe wasn't covered in snow. And mom and those little kids were breathing in the carbon monoxide coming in because he didn't know. This was their first winter.
Oh boy.
And she says, these little things that we just take for granted, remember, if you do come across somebody who's in the ditch and it's obvious that they're not used to our winters, especially our northern ones, they're not going to have thought to do that. I thought, wow. Wow.
And that is a perfect example. Like the fact that, people pulled over immediately, saw the situation. The one I love to think of, and I grew up in Fort McMurray. We drove Highway 63 all the time.
Oh yeah.
And for those who don't understand, especially back in the day when I was growing up there was Fort McMurray, and then it was 5 hours to Edmonton. And there wasn't a whole lot in between. There was a gas station at Mariana Lakes and a
Mhm.
gas station. Where would the other gas station have been, Kathy?
Wandering River would be the next
Wandering
one.
River. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had 2 gas stations in between. Well, when they had to evacuate Fort McMurray because of the fires, immediately people from Edmonton and area were loading up the back of their trucks full of
Mhm.
jerry cans and their cabs full of water, knowing full well that when you've got 85,000 people evacuating on one highway, there's going to
Yep.
be people who didn't have full tanks who weren't going to make it.
That's right.
And they immediately started heading in the direction of the fire to
Yep.
start meeting people that they knew were going to be stranded on the side of the road
Yeah.
without enough fuel in their car to
That's
make
right.
the trip. And nobody organized that. The government didn't organize that. It was
No.
the people who immediately knew the need and just did it. And
Yep.
I was living down here 12 hours away, but I tell you, I was like, man, I would be there. I would totally do that if I had the opportunity. So yeah, when it comes to switching from a Canada pension plan to an Alberta pension plan, we need to remember Quebec has had their own pension plan forever, and
Yes.
it's been perfectly fine.
Better than
Um,
ours, actually. It is doing much better than
yes, it
ours.
has done well. Um, we we have the right to do this.
Yeah.
Um, it's in our government constitution or wherever that is in the CPP Act or whatever that a
Yeah.
province does have the right, and which is why the Alberta government commissioned that study on, I think they called it life force is what they called it,
Mm-hmm.
um, in understanding what would this look like and what would Albertans be entitled to out of the CPP. And again, like you mentioned before, we've had no cooperation from the federal government, which is again goes against their own laws, their own rules, their own acts, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they are required to give a number, a specific number.
Yeah.
And that has not happened yet. But also not surprising considering who we're dealing with in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And it's something that we are going to be asked most likely to vote on next year, and Albertans need to be informed.
Yeah. They do. And I just would want to add one more thought that comes to mind. And I'm going to speak directly to the ladies right now. It is a fact that we tend to outlive our men. We just do. And the way that the CPP is set up right now, don't think you're going to be, incredibly looked after when it's just you. Don't think that there's going to be a lot of help from that fund when it's just you. There'll be some, but it won't be significant. By bringing this home and doing this our way, the Alberta way, we can make sure that you are even more looked after when you know how now are in that unenviable position of having to figure out how you're going to live out the rest of your days without the one that you love the most.
Great.
Do not expect the federal government to help you through those years. They won't. They won't. If we bring this home, we've got a much better chance to be able to help you through that, both as a community because we love you, but also from these government programs that we'll have in place.
Oh, that's such a good point, Kathy. That really is such a good point, and it's so true. Yeah. And so as women, we have to be savvy about this. We have to understand
Yes, we
what
do.
our future looks like and how it can look better and brighter than what it does right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We've got a plan for the challenging times in life as well as the good times in life, and this is part of that.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, good point. Love it.
Thank you.
So true.
Hey, so
Mm,
that's kind of a low point, but yeah, it had to be said. You
yes.
and I are going to be side by side, face to face, in person. I'm so excited for these moments.
Me too.
On Friday, we're going early. We got tickets to the Rebel News event in Red Deer for Saturday. So we're going to be there all day Saturday for that.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And then we decided that, you know what, let's go a night early. Let's go Friday to Red Deer
Mm-hmm.
and let's see who we can round up. Who's in Red Deer? Where's our ladies in Red Deer?
Yeah.
Who can we round up? So we've got some feelers out there with some of the gals that we know, but there's a lot we don't. So we're asking you ladies, reach out to us, either email, Facebook message, X message, however, either on the AWIN stuff or to Angela and I personally, however you
Mm-hmm.
want to do it. And let's get together on Friday night. And if you want to see our presentation, we'll do that. If you want to just chat, we can do that. If you want to do both, which is usually how these meetings end up anyways, that's always the best way to do it. But let's
Yep.
get together. Let's have some quality girl time.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to it. And yeah, we've had a few people reach out to us through social media saying, "Hey, give me the details." Um, so yeah, we know we'll be meeting at 7 p.m. in Red
Hmm.
Deer. We don't quite have the venue nailed down just yet. We've got, like you said, we've got some feelers out there, so we're waiting on a few different people to get back to us, but it's going to happen. And so we are just super excited about that. And then, of course, the Rebel News event on Saturday will be great. Where did you find information on that, Kathy? Was that like on their website or something?
Yep, right on their website. Right on their
Oh, there
website.
you go. So maybe there's still tickets left if people want to attend that. They were like super reasonable. What was it, $45 a piece or something? And that included breakfast and lunch,
Yeah, now that was
right?
the early bird, so I'm not sure
That
what
was the
they are
early bird.
now.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
yeah, yeah, but still, like breakfast and lunch with it, even
Yeah,
whatever the non-early bird price is. And the lineup of speakers is great. So, and they even have people on the No Alberta Should Stay side talking on the
yeah,
stage. And this is what we need. This is
yeah.
what we
The
need. We need,
conversation.
yes, both sides coming together, right? Figuring it out, getting our questions answered. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Ah, I love it. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be great.
I think so. Well, the best part is we get to hang out.
Right, and that too.
Yeah, yeah. And don't forget to bring my Canada flag with you.
Your Alberta flag.
Or that. Did I just say Canada? Bleep that
You
out.
did.
Bleep that out. My Alberta flag.
I don't think I have a Canada flag anymore. I think a few years back it got
I never
replaced
did.
with an Alberta flag. You know, people will call us traitors, so let me just address that right now. Two of the biggest traitors the world have ever known was Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go ahead, call us a traitor. I'm all right with it.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
Totally cool. You know what I mean? You could give me a Canada flag too, and I'll put it upside down.
Yeah, that's about where it needs to be. Unfortunately,
It is.
tragically,
It very
sadly.
much. I saw that in Edmonton, actually. We were out running errands, and there was, I should have taken a picture of it, but it was on a really busy street where you just didn't get that opportunity. Um, and it was somebody's house, and they had all of these they had, I think it was, I want to say 5 flagpoles outside their house. And 4 of them were lower than the middle one, and the middle one was the Alberta flag, and the 4 lower ones were upside down Canada flags. And you know what? That is the state. And people misread that if it's an upside down Canada flag that you're rejecting Canada, and that's not it actually.
Hmm.
It's a country in distress. That's what
Yeah,
that upside down flag means.
yeah,
And Alberta's the only way out of that distress is we got to get out of Confederation.
yeah.
And that was in the middle
Well,
of Edmonton.
wow. That would be something to see.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and one of the ways to start that process is by bringing an APP home, an Alberta Pension Plan,
Yeah.
putting that in place. Um, yeah, I mean, in the again, that article that the Fraser Institute did, they referenced the 2001 letter, the Alberta Agenda, where it's basically a firewall letter, and it
Yeah.
was, Stephen Harper and some other folks were in on it, and basically stating, like, outlining the way for Alberta to prepare or to protect
Mhm.
themselves from the rest of Canada, or from Ottawa and the overreach, that type of thing, rather. Um, and yeah, one of the main things was get an Alberta pension plan.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, like, this is not a new idea. There's a reason
Hmm.
why people have been pushing for it for a very, very long time. And they're very good, solid reasons. Um, Economically, the numbers, all that, the philosophy of accountability, all those things point to an Alberta pension plan being what we need to do. So,
Yeah. That's true. True.
anything else you wanted to add to that,
Oh, I could talk about all this stuff all day, so I should probably just zip.
Kathy? Well, we'll do another one next week. I'm sure other questions, themes, that type of thing will come forward that
Yeah.
we
Well,
can
and I'm sure we'll have some
address.
takeaways from the event on Saturday too. So,
That too. That
yeah.
too. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, with that, I guess we should probably get on with our normal lives.
Yeah, I suppose so.
All the boring stuff. All the boring
Right?
stuff.
This is way
Yeah.
better. This is way better. Well,
Okay.
thanks so much, Kathy. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Angela. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
See you Friday.
Bye.